I want to talk about what is winning, okay? Two women, one a member of the IDF, the other an Iranian journalist, okay? That's the question. Let's bring in Iranian-born journalist Negar Mortazavi, and here in the studio with me is Israeli Defense Forces Captain Maya Bentwich. It's good to have you both. Thank you very much. Negar, let me start with you. The idea of that two things can be true at the same time. The regime is terrible, has to go, is oppressing your people, but the way this is happening creates risk of worse. Why?
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. So first of all, the way this war is conducted, if we see in the U.S. Congress didn't get a vote, the American people didn't get a vote. If you look at polls, opinion polls in the U.S., thankfully a democracy where you can actually poll people on their opinion, unlike, for example, Iran. Every single poll shows that the majority of the American people are actually against yet another big, endless regime change war in the Middle East. The international community didn't get a vote. The UN Special Rapporteur has posted that this is a violation of the UN Charter. Security Council wasn't consulted, unlike previous regime change wars recently done by the US in the Middle East, which have failed, I think, but at least they had the vote of the US Congress. They went through the Security Council. This had none of those. It was, I think, a rash decision to just go in without a long-term or medium-term plan. I don't really know what the plan is, how long this is going to go, for a style of a decapitation of a regime. And it's just, I'm worried this is going to cause chaos and, instability in the form of examples that we have seen in the region. Iran is situated between Afghanistan and Iraq, is a neighbor to Syria, Libya is in that region, you name it. Show me one good example where military intervention brought democracy, nation building, better governance. So I think that's what worries a lot of Iranians also, who see the situation, no love lost for the regime, but also they're worried of things getting even worse.
Now, the concern, Maya, from your perspective, from the American perspective, I totally get how Negar is diagramming this. But every country she named wants to kill you. And so it is different from the Israeli exposure perspective, not just in terms of regional, right, because you're there, but in terms of intentionality. What is success from the Israeli perspective in Iran?
It's a very difficult question, and I'm not sure I'm the right person to answer. First of all, thank you again for having me on.
It's good to have you, Captain.
I'm a captain in reserves in the IDF, and just to give you a little bit of my background, I served in reserve service, asked to switch to the IDF spokesperson unit, and my role during the war was 2 weeks after October 7th. For 6 months, I led all the visits in the devastated kibbutzim. I'm one of the only few people that saw firsthand the atrocious acts that Hamas did to innocent civilians. Hamas is backed by the Iranian regime, like many other proxies in the region. So I understand, I understand the point, but I'm not sure Americans understand how deeply this affects them. Why? Because the Iranian regime, which has intense nuclear power that can get here, and we're seeing it. Just yesterday, they attacked what we thought were their partners, in the Middle East, the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain. This affects America because the Iranian regime, which sponsors approximately 90% of the world terrorism, is backed by Iran. With that being said, they're straight out saying they're coming after the Saturday people first and the Sunday people next. They're saying, and they're chanting it, this is not me inventing it, they're chanting, death to America, death to Israel.
So you think the regime has to go?
Of course. I think this regime has to go for the sake of the Iranian people and for the sake of the free moral world in which we hope to live in or live in.
Negar, do you think, I'm sure you know the same reporting I do about the CIA now supposedly working with the Iranian Kurds, which is not the worst idea. You know their history much better than I do, but certainly they are motivated and they have capabilities, especially if they're armed. Do you think that there is enough chance to overthrow this regime organically with Iranian society?
I don't think so. Honestly, this is something that the Israelis, a narrative they were pushing during the June war last year when they came from the skies and There was this sort of talking point that the regime is on its last leg, it's weakened, and now there's going to be uprisings and riots and people are going to take away. And we did not see one protest. I mean, the natural reaction was that when the homeland was attacked, we saw a rally around the homeland effect, in fact, not maybe around the flag or the regime, but a rally around the homeland effect. Just last month, there were protests, there was a brutal, deadly crackdown. But now, again, when the war started, we haven't really seen that form of protest. This formula that you can go from the sky and then people are going to rise up and somehow take over this regime from the bottom, I don't think is going to work. And also, we're not talking about, I think sometimes these terms are thrown out like we're playing a video game. This is a nation state. This is one of the largest countries in the region, one of the most populated, 90 something million. It's a system with very powerful institutions. Yes, it's repressive. Every country in that region is repressive, but it has institutions, it has powerful institutions. The supreme leader was assassinated, top brass was taken out, immediately replaced. They regroup, they have a leadership council, and they're running the show and they're hitting back. Yes, they're the underdog in this war, but they're also a regional power. So the way of approaching this by sending armed groups from the border or assuming that Iranians can somehow take over their institutions
You don't
as
see
the
it.
president keeps I don't think so.
Yeah,
And also
okay.
I think it's a very bad idea to push for that kind of a sectarian civil war situation. Imagine Syria 3 times worse.
Right, but I'm just saying the alternative is that you have an invading force come in. You know, I don't think that we want that either. Certainly the Americans don't want that. You're right about the polling there. What does it mean, Captain? Just give me a take on this. China, Russia, my concern was they may do something loud and overt here. We do hear that they may be helping with targeting and satellite help, but they haven't been as loud. In fact, none of Iran's friends or supposed friends have stepped up. What does that mean? Not yet? Or do you think it's sending a message that you're alone against these guys?
Personally, I think it's sending a message that they're alone. I think that we're going through difficult yet very meaningful days. And I hope and believe that the Iranian people, by the way, to your point, Negar, should stand up. I'm not an Iranian, but this regime has terrorized its people. And as a woman, as women that are being oppressed there, and to see what is going on in the country, in Iran, and the way that it can affect the world, the way that it can affect Iran as a country, the United States of America, Israel, and the whole of Middle East. So I think that them not stepping up so far is encouraging in a sense, because it means that something big is indeed happening. And by the way, I hope and encourage them to stand up and to create a change. I want to live in a world where these values that they constantly push and believe in and oppress are not accepted. I do not agree with the point of all countries are oppressed. Iran is an extreme example, and I've seen this firsthand because I've seen what this terror does, and we do not want to live in that world, Chris.
I understand it. We understand it here as well. October 7th was called your 9/11 for a reason. We had it here. It was devastating. And it haunts, which is why people are concerned about this. Are we going down this road again? It is not a coincidence that I had you two on, and it's not just because you're both smarter than I am. As the fate of women goes, so goes a society. If you want to measure the success of a society, you look at the parity between the genders. That's why there's so much upside potential for America. But when you look at the Middle East, there's a long way to go. Captain, thank you very much. Appreciate you. Negar, thank you very much. We'll keep talking. Thank you for the perspective. Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.